Many horses are thought to have poor conformation. They're heavy on their forehand. They have what's thought to be conformational flaws in the way that their legs are, or they move poorly. They move with a dropped back and with a high head. And it's been thought that if a horse has a conformational flaw or has poor conformation, that it can't be changed. But in this second part of our training with Patrick King, he's going to be teaching us and also showing us how there is a difference between anatomy and conformation. Hi, I'm Callie from CR King Training, and I'm here today with Patrick King for the second part of Patrick's free training on in-hand work. So first of all, if you haven't watched that first video, in the first video Patrick explains what in-hand work is and why it's so important for a variety of different horses. I would really recommend that you go back and watch that first video, but if you could, just give us a little recap on what is in-hand work and why is it so important regardless of what discipline or what type of riding someone does.
So the short story is that your in-hand work is a way of working with your horse on the ground to help unlock their mind and their body, freeing the body and the mind of resistances that might get in the way of your training, basically.
Yeah, and the focus of this free training has been understanding why tension can create so many problems, not just in how a horse moves, but also in how they feel and how that relates to a lot of the common behavior problems that people experience with their horses. And you've worked with a lot of different horses. 18 years of clinics, correct?
Yes.
And I think you had told us in the first video over 3,000 horses that you've
about
started.
Or over 3,000 young horses started under saddle, and countless thousands more that I've ridden.
Yeah, that's amazing. What we want to focus on for today's video is the idea of how anatomy is different than conformation. So in that first video, you taught the basics of anatomy and how they relate to this idea of when the horse holds a lot of attention, how that affects their body and how that then can even, affect the mind and emotion. So with all of the different horses that you have worked with, what led you to this idea that there's a difference there between the anatomy, what the horse is given, and conformation, kind of how they end up appearing and moving?
Right. So the simplified way of looking at it to me is that anatomy is the pieces that the horse is born with. Conformation is the use of the pieces that the horse is born with. And with that in mind, conformation can somewhat be changed, right? We can help change a horse's conformation by teaching him proper use of the anatomy. So we think about it with ourselves similar to posture, right? Our anatomy is one thing, it's the parts that we're born with. Our posture is like our conformation. It's the use of those parts, right? So, and for me, I used to have pretty crappy posture, to be honest. In fact, my original driver's license said I was 5'5", and I'm actually 5'9". Wow. That's how poor my posture was. And you can imagine, when our posture is a certain way, our body moves a certain way, so our thinking patterns tend to form in a certain way also. So when I started focusing more on my posture, I realized, different use of the body, different use of muscles. And it took some unlocking of some muscles, some engaging of some other muscles in order to allow that postural change. It's the same way with our horses. If a horse is used to carrying themselves around, kind of slumped over, and so we think of horses as being like heavy on the forehand, right? Heavy on the forehand is a great one maybe to use as an example, because those horses tend to be, we would say, dropped in the sternum, right? You'll see the scapula maybe at the top by the withers kind of poking out. You'll even see leg position changes that we think of as conformational faults. When the horse learns to carry himself in a better way, when he learns to carry better posture, oftentimes those legs change, the shoulders change, the withers get higher. I've seen horses, I've personally had horses that through proper work, they actually get taller. As they learn to engage their thoracic sling, right, they lift the front of their body up. Because the horse is different than us. The horse wasn't designed for climbing, so they don't have the clavicle, they don't have a collarbone. So what that means for us, for the horse, is that the front legs are connecting just with muscle, right? The front legs aren't, it's not a bone-to-bone connection of the front legs to the chest or to the base of the neck. So with that, when we tone, when we engage those proper muscles, it helps the horse to basically stand up and carry better posture, right? And that's, again, what we would think of as conformation. We see some horses going around, ewe-necked horses, right? Or stag-necked horses, where the lower neck muscles really expressed and the upper neck is very contracted. Look at any tense, nervous horse and you start to see that, right? That ewe-neck is generally the result of more tension in the top line, in the upper musculature of the horse's neck and in the nuchal ligament. And if we can help to release that tension, we can completely change the look or the expression of a horse's neck. It's not uncommon in our in-hand work for it to look like your horse's neck has doubled in size, because they go from being compressed and tight to open, and we refer to the telescoping neck, where they start to really reach through the neck and unlock the whole body. And when that happens, then we see the hind legs start to reach farther under the horse, and they take on a completely different balance because they've taken on a completely different posture. Awesome.
Well, in this video, what we're going to do up next is you're going to be working with Bigfoot, your friend Bigfoot.
My friend Bigfoot.
And showing us some of the exercises that you use through the in-hand work and how each one can play a role in this process of improving conformation.
Oh, perfect.
So let's head down to the arena and we'll get Bigfoot. You can meet Bigfoot.
This is my friend Bigfoot. He's an 8-year-old Hanoverian gelding, and he and I are going to show you the first couple steps in your in-hand work, and then maybe some fancy stuff that you can aspire to do. The first position that we always want to seek with our horse, and we go back to it as often as possible, is a relaxation and a released stretching in the top line. There. We want to see that the horse is telescoping their neck forward and reaching through the body. In this case, you can see he's pretty relaxed with this idea. From here, we'd move into a position we refer to creatively as position 1. In position 1, the horse's haunches rotate around the nose, basically. We want a mild bend through the body. We're going to have him tracking slightly forward and at the same time laterally. It's not uncommon when we first start with this for your horse to overbend or to travel a little bit too much, like Bigfoot's doing right here. I would focus on the hips, asking him to come there, a little more sideways as we go. If you watch the tracking of his feet, this puts him very much in a stretching shoulder-in position. I'm not going to force the stretch from his body, but I'm going to be constantly encouraging him to reach forward and stretch into this movement. You'd be surprised how challenging this can be for some horses that foster a lot of natural tension in their body. Position 2, the nose begins to rotate around the haunches. It's as though we've swapped ends. Something more like a turn on the haunches, but with the hindquarters still tracking forward. In this position, he has to engage a little bit more his hindquarters so that he can free up his shoulders and carry himself around. We'd return frequently back to position 1 when you're first starting this position 2 idea. It's a combination of position 1 and position 2 that helps our in-hand work progress, and from there we can carry it on into some more advanced work. When we first start learning about these positions with our horse, we like to start in the halter or in the cavesson. Once you and your horse are feeling successful with those, then it's time to go into the snaffle bridle and we can do some more refined work. Our position 1, we started in front of the horse, asking for the haunches to rotate around the nose. Once we come in with the snaffle bridle, we're going to actually go into that slight bend. We're going to be on the inside of that bend, asking our horse to still do the same move. And now from here, I can actually carry it somewhere. I can decide I'm going to head down the wall. In this position, we see our horse carrying himself in the shoulder in position. What was position 2 now becomes a counter shoulder in. And as we play with these movements and positions, you're going to flow in and out. Shoulders in to counter shoulders in. All the while trying to maintain a stretch and a release through the horse's top line. Once you can easily flow from shoulder in to counter shoulder in, and you're starting to feel more comfortable with the idea of stretching through the top line and finding position 1 and position 2, we can start to connect the outside rein, asking our horse for a little bit more engagement and connection to the hind quarters. It's once we start connecting the outside rein and engaging the haunches that then we can change position and work a little bit more in the lateral work, affecting the position of the haunches, the engagement, and ultimately the degree of collection that we get from our horse. This is where it starts to get really fun. We can connect our outside rein, engaging the haunches a little more, and you can see his balance change into the shoulders in. I could turn this into a leg yield from here by changing my position slightly. The leg yield helps to supple the horse. We're carrying the horse forward at basically a 45-degree angle, and that can be more or less depending on how much engagement you're going to ask for. The horse carries onto 2 tracks. If you could think of it as a staircase, a step forward and a step to the side, a step forward and a step to the side, but it's all going to flow in one motion. Where the shoulder in introduces the bend and eventually the connection to the horse, the leg yield helps to supple the horse within the bend. Once we've got more connection then to the outside rein, we can use it to change the bend, influencing the position of the haunches. It's from here that we can ask for the travers, the renvers, depending on our positioning. We can ask for the half pass. Advancing into travers gives us more control over the horse's haunches and helps to isolate the outside hind leg, building more strength and helping to articulate those hind leg joints more. This is going to help us build up to more advanced collection and more advanced lateral maneuvers. Moving your horse along into the renvers does similar work that the travers does. Travers haunches in, renvers haunches out. This gives us more control over the hindquarters, which again is going to allow us more increased collection and weight bearing to the haunches. Your half pass gives you increased control over both the haunches and the shoulders, helping the pelvis to articulate a little deeper, reaching the horse into yet another deeper amount of collection and engagement. Once we're confident with moving the haunches, engaging, we can start to create more movements like the pirouette. As you and your horse start to explore the engagement, the connection, and the relationship that the in-hand work provides, you can go on and beyond, tackling things like pee-off, eventually maybe levade or some of the other high school work. The options really are limitless, and they just depend on your imagination and how much desire you have to go that far. Right, Bigfoot? Yeah. Those basic positions are the foundation for the work that you'll do with your horse in hand. All of the work that you'll do is basically built on those pieces, up through your more advanced movements like pirouettes, half pass, ultimately piaffe, levade, and more. Is there a movement that you'd like to master with your horse in hand? Let us know in the comments.
I can't wait to hear what position you're really aspiring to do with your horse. I think for me, it's the half pass and trot. Yeah. It looks beautiful, and I can't wait to keep working on it and get that one down with my horse. So also make sure that you look for the third video in the series, because in that video, Patrick is going to show a simple pattern that you can start to do to put these basic positions into use with your own horse in a pattern. So keep an eye out for that.